You know that moment when something happens and your body knows before your brain does? Someone cuts you off mid-sentence and the conversation moves forward like you never spoke. Someone makes a comment that sounds like a joke but lands like a judgment. Someone dismisses what you said without even looking at you. And you're left standing there trying to figure out if you're being too sensitive or if what just happened actually mattered. Here's what I need you to understand. It mattered. And the reason you're confused isn't because you're wrong. It's because most disrespect doesn't announce itself. It's quiet, it's coded, and it's designed to make you question whether you even have the right to be upset. Hey, it's Emma, and today we're talking about something most of us experience but don't know how to handle. How people test your boundaries without saying it directly. Why some women get walked over while others command respect without effort. And most importantly, how to shift the dynamic so people start treating you differently. Not because you demanded it, but because you stopped allowing anything less. If you've ever walked away from a conversation feeling smaller than when you walked in, stay with me. This one's going to change how you move through every room you enter. Before we talk about how to handle it, let's talk about why it happens in the first place. Because once you understand the psychology behind why people do this, it becomes so much easier not to take it personally, and so much clearer how to respond. Most of the time, when someone subtly disrespects you, it has nothing to do with you. It's about them. About what they're trying to prove. About what they need in that moment to feel secure. Some people do it to establish dominance. They need to feel like the most confident person in the room, so they try to make you look unsure. If they can get you to second-guess yourself, stumble over your words, or shrink in front of others, suddenly they seem stronger by comparison. You've seen this. Someone casually undermines your idea in a meeting. They don't outright say it's bad. They just raise an eyebrow, smirk, say something like, "Interesting take. I guess that could work." The tone does all the work. And if you hesitate, if you backtrack, if you try to over-explain, they've won. Because now they look certain and you look like you don't trust your own judgment. But here's what's actually happening. That person is insecure. Truly secure people don't need to make others look small to feel big. The ones who do this the most are usually the ones who feel the least solid in themselves. Other times, people do it for social positioning, especially in group settings. They want attention, they want to seem sharp or funny or in control, so they make a little jab at someone else. It's a shortcut. Instead of being interesting on their own merit, they get the spotlight by putting someone else in a weaker position. Think about it. Someone says something like, "Oh wow, love that you're still rocking that look, so bold." Everyone laughs, not because they don't like you, but because the dynamic just shifted and you became the target. And in that moment, the person who said it gets to feel clever without actually contributing anything of value. And then there are people who are just unkind. No deep reason, no hidden wound. Some people are negative, critical, and they enjoy making others uncomfortable. You know the type. Always has something sarcastic to say, treats pointing out flaws like it's a personality trait. But even then, it's usually still rooted in their own dissatisfaction. Happy people don't go around trying to humiliate others. Now here's the part that's hard to hear but necessary. Sometimes we make it easier for them, not because we deserve it, not because we're doing anything wrong, but because without realizing it, we send signals that we won't push back, that we'll tolerate it, that we're safe to test. And once you see that, once you realize the role you're playing in the dynamic, even unconsciously, that's when everything shifts. Because now you can change it. So let's talk about what you might be doing that lowers your perceived value in people's eyes, and how to shift it. You walk into a room. Before you've said a single word, people are already forming opinions about you. Is she confident? Is she someone I need to pay attention to? Can I interrupt her and get away with it? This isn't shallow, it's neurological. Our brains are wired to make rapid assessments for survival. Thousands of years ago, our ancestors didn't have time for long introductions. They had to assess quickly: threat, ally, leader, follower. And our nervous systems still do this today. The part of your brain responsible for threat detection, it scans posture, tone, facial expression, the pace of your walk. It happens in seconds, and once that impression forms, it tends to stick. That's why first impressions carry so much weight. And it's why how you show up in the first few moments often determines how people treat you for the rest of the interaction. I remember being in school and watching how differently teachers were treated based purely on how they entered the room. Some would walk in hesitant, avoiding eye contact, speaking too quickly, trying too hard to be liked, and we could feel it immediately. This one's not going to be a problem. Then there were others who'd walk in calm, grounded, steady. They didn't need to prove anything. They'd stand tall, make eye contact, speak slowly, and suddenly everyone sat up a little straighter. Not out of fear, out of instinct, out of respect. It wasn't about what they said, it was about the energy they brought with them. And I see this play out constantly now, in classrooms, in professional settings, even in social spaces. The energy you enter with sets the tone for how people engage with you. So if you've been feeling invisible, talked over, or not taken seriously, the first place to look is not what you're saying. It's how you're showing up before you even open your mouth. Now let's talk about the subtle behaviors that communicate you can treat me however you want. One of the biggest? Over-accommodating. Constant smiling even when something feels off. Nodding along when you actually disagree. Saying, "Oh, it's fine," when it's really not. Laughing at jokes that actually hurt just to avoid looking too sensitive. We do this because we're trying to be easygoing, likable, non-threatening. But what people receive is a different message. She won't push back. She'll tolerate it. She won't make it uncomfortable. And once someone believes that about you, it shapes every interaction that follows. I've watched people with strong personalities get disrespected simply because they were always available, always saying yes, never drawing a line. And I've watched people who barely spoke get treated with careful respect because they had boundaries, and those boundaries said I'm kind, but I'm not here for disrespect. So ask yourself, where am I making myself too available? Where am I downplaying how I really feel just to keep the peace? Where am I afraid to be inconvenient? Because respect isn't just about how smart or impressive you are. It's about what you allow. Then there's how you speak. Not just what you say, but how you say it. You could have the best idea in the room, but if you present it like a question, if your voice trails off, if you add disclaimers like, "I don't know, maybe," or "this might be dumb," but people will treat it like it's optional. We do this constantly. We make our voices smaller. We apologize before we've even said the thing. We end sentences with nervous laughter like we're already sorry for existing. And it's not always because we're unsure. It's because we've been conditioned not to sound too confident, not to take up too much space, not to be too much. But here's the truth. When you constantly present your thoughts like suggestions, people treat them like suggestions. Compare these two. Sorry, this might be totally off, but I don't know. Maybe we could try this? I mean, if that makes sense. Versus, here's what I think we should do. Same idea, completely different reception. You don't have to be loud. You don't have to be aggressive. You just have to stop shrinking your voice. Stop treating your thoughts like they need to be softened just to be heard. The more you speak with certainty in yourself, the more people mirror that back to you. They lean in, they listen. They feel like what you're saying matters, because you're treating it like it does. Now let's say it's already happened. You've been disrespected. Someone made a comment, talked over you, mocked something you said, made you feel small in front of others. You're sitting there with that tight feeling in your chest, that split second of confusion where your brain is trying to catch up. You know something just happened, but now you're stuck wondering, do I say something? Do I let it go? Am I overreacting? This is the moment where most people lose their power, because no one taught us how to hold it here. So let's talk about how to actually respond when the disrespect has already landed. First, don't immediately justify yourself. Don't get flustered. Don't nervously laugh it off. Pause. Even just 1 or 2 seconds of silence before you respond changes everything. It signals presence, control, and more importantly, it gives you space to respond intentionally instead of reacting emotionally. Because the goal here isn't to win the argument, it's to reset the dynamic. So let's say someone makes a passive-aggressive comment in front of others. Something like, "Wow, didn't see you as the type to say something like that. All eyes are on you." Here's what you do. You meet their energy with calm. Real calm. You stay steady. You keep your tone grounded. And you say something like, "Interesting comment. What did you mean by that?" Or even simpler, "Did you mean that to be disrespectful?" Just checking. You're not raising your voice. You're not attacking. But you're making it very clear that you saw what just happened, that you heard it, and that you're not the kind of person who lets things slide. The awkward silence that follows? Let it sit. Don't rush to fill it. Let them feel the discomfort they created. Because here's the thing. People who are used to putting others down rarely expect pushback, especially from someone they've always seen as too nice or too accommodating. That's exactly why these moments are so powerful. You're breaking the pattern. You're teaching them, and everyone else in the room that you're not an easy target anymore. Another approach: redirect without reacting. Someone says something condescending. Instead of engaging, you just say, "Anyway, back to what I was saying," and you keep talking. You don't acknowledge their attempt to derail you. You don't reward it with attention. You just move forward with intention. That silence, that shift, it's incredibly powerful. It says, "You're irrelevant to what I'm doing right now." Now here's the hard part: doing this consistently. Because when you start holding your ground in subtle, respectful ways, people notice. They may push back at first. They may test you harder, but over time they learn. They learn that you take yourself seriously, and eventually they start taking you seriously too. Let's talk about the one thing that makes all of this possible: emotional control. This is what separates reacting from responding. When someone disrespects you, your nervous system lights up, your heart races, your face gets hot, and your brain wants to either fight or freeze. That's normal. But you can't change the dynamic if you let your emotions run the show. Control doesn't mean pretending you're not upset. It means slowing down the reaction just enough so you can choose how to respond, instead of letting the moment choose for you. That's real power. Being able to take a breath, hold eye contact, and speak calmly while every part of you wants to lash out or disappear, that's next level strength. Because when you stay emotionally steady, it disarms the other person. They don't get the satisfaction of seeing you flustered. You don't give them power. Instead, you show them you're not here to play their game. And that shift alone changes everything. People remember how you respond under pressure. That's what builds your reputation. Not what you said in the best moment, but how you carried yourself in the hardest one. Now a reminder for the people pleasers and peacekeepers out there: this doesn't mean you need to walk around correcting everyone or looking for fights. You don't have to become cold or distant to protect your peace. What you do need is clarity. Clarity about what is and isn't okay with you. Clarity about your worth. Clarity about what kind of treatment you will no longer tolerate. And when you carry that clarity into every conversation, every interaction, every room, you don't need to raise your voice to be heard. You don't need to prove your worth to anyone. You become someone people naturally respect, because you respect yourself first. So the next time someone tries to test you, tries to undermine you, tries to make you feel small, pause, breathe, and remind yourself, you are not here to make other people comfortable at the expense of your dignity. You are not here to laugh along when something hurts just to keep the peace, and you are definitely not here to hand over your power because someone else feels insecure. Hold your energy, let your voice land, and if they don't like it, that's not your problem. Because once you learn how to protect your peace without ever raising your voice, you stop needing to demand respect. People just start giving it to you. I'm Emma. If this shifted something for you, share it with someone who needs to hear it.